Good afternoon. Welcome everybody to our council meeting, midday meeting, just because we rescheduled because of weather Monday night. I'd like to call our meeting to order, but before we do that, I'd like to ask everybody to stand for our prayer. And right from our prayer, we're going to the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Higginbotham, call roll, please.
President Logan.
Here.
Councilman Sullivan.
Here.
Councilman Davis. Councilman Hogg.
Here.
You have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. Mayor Aaron in her office has a presentation.
This is a proclamation to celebrate Vietnam War Veterans Day. And Mr. Turner, I want, before I start this, to tell you how much I appreciate what you do for the veterans of this county and how you keep them alive in our thoughts. And I appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
Whereas President Trump signed the Vietnam War Veterans Recognition Act of 2017, designating March the 29th as the National Vietnam War Veterans Day. And whereas 45 years have passed since the U.S. troops withdrew from Vietnam in 1973. And whereas due to the unpopularity of the war upon returning home, Vietnam veterans did not receive support or gratitude for their service. And whereas out of the 2.7 million U.S. service members who served in Vietnam, more than 58,000 were killed and more than 304,000 were wounded. And whereas the veterans of foreign wars of the United States applaud these long overdue tributes to honor the men and women who served bravely during the Vietnam War, and whereas our Vietnam veterans fought for our freedom, kept America safe, and dedicated their lives to this nation, and we are forever thankful for that unwavering strength and courage while fighting in the Vietnam War. Whereas on National Vietnam War Veterans Day, we honor the immeasurable sacrifices and contributions of our Vietnam War veterans who have made to protect the life, liberty, and happiness of every American. All veterans deserve our deepest respect. Now, therefore, I, Donna Aaron, by the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Northport, Alabama, do hereby proclaim March the 29th, 2018 to be National Vietnam War Veterans Day in the city of Northport, and encourage our citizens to remember and recognize the courage and sacrifices of those who have served and those who continue to serve. And thank you for all that you do.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Sorry for the shaking of the leg, but it's my residuals of the stroke that I had a few years ago. And if you ever have one of those, you know what I'm talking about. Thank you, Mayor Aaron and council members. We are honored, I'm honored to accept this proclamation on behalf of the men and women who served so valiantly in the Vietnam War. In the 1960s and 70s, military members returning from the unpopular war were at best ignored. Many were vilified and treated with hostility. Our servicemen and women served honorably and bravely in Vietnam and should never be forgotten or treated with disrespect. It is a job that no one really wants to do, but must do for honor, duty, country, and family, for the preservation of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, even at the price of their own life. The veterans of foreign wars of the United States applaud this long overdue tribute to honor the men and women who served bravely during the Vietnam War. On 31 March 2018, from 2 to 4 p.m. at VFW Post 6022, we're going to have a Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans Day event and everybody's invited to come out and to thank those Vietnam veterans that attend and to thank them for their service. Thank you, ma'am.
Item 5 is approval of our agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as printed?
Motion to approve.
That's a motion by Councilman Hogg. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Sullivan. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Higginbotham.
Councilman Hogg,
Yes.
Councilman Sullivan,
Yes.
President Logan.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. President.
Item 6, Mr. Walter. Mr. Walter Turner? Again? Come on. Come on back up. Yes, sir.
Okay, every year, the Veterans of Foreign Wars of the United States presents their awards for, we have our scholarship awards for our Patriots Pen, Voice of Democracy, Teacher of the Year, Scout of the Year, et cetera, and so forth. We also have awards that honor the local law enforcement, EMT, and firefighters of the year because we consider them comrades in arms because they keep us safe in our beds at night about the same way that we were overseas when we were fighting in various conflicts. So I will read this. I heard a guy say one time that he didn't want to embarrass everybody by showing his memory so he could memorize it, so he just read it. But I ain't got a memory, so I'm just going to read it. Each year, the Veterans of Foreign Wars of the United States honor those who risk their lives every day in protecting our communities so we can feel safe in our homes, schools, and everyday life. Today, we're here to honor the community's best of the best, the Emergency Medical Technician of the Year. Was nominated by his respective organization, and we had a panel of judges that selected him based on the criteria that his nomination package. So I'll just read this. The VFW Emergency Services Gold Medal Award for Outstanding EMT of the Year it goes to an individual for outstanding service in the field of emergency services. To recognize an individual who provides emergency medical treatment, provides rescue service, or civil disaster assistance to the member of a public or volunteer company organized for those purposes. The VFW Post 6022 and District 6 Gold Medal Award for Emergency Medical Technician of the Year is awarded to firefighter paramedic Billy Currington, Northport Fire Department.
Don't go too fast, Billy. We got to get some photo ops, man.
Okay. Where we got? Hey, if anybody takes pictures, email me one so I can put them out on my Facebook page because I always try to do that. Is that it? Thank y'all for allowing me.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Congratulations, Billy. Thank you for what you do. Item 7A1, unfinished business. I think Mr. Stevens is not here today. So Bruce Higginbotham will act in as our liaison for planning department. It's a second reading of an ordinance annexing approximately 0.83 acres located at 5500 Watermelon Road. Mr. Higginbotham.
Yes, sir. This business, as you said, is located on Watermelon Road. It's actually a business who is looking to annex to acquire sanitary sewer. It does come with favorable recommendation from Planning and Zoning.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt that ordinance?
Make that motion.
That's a motion by Councilman Hogg. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Sullivan. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Higginbotham.
Councilman Hogg,
Yes.
Councilman Sullivan,
Yes.
President Logan.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. President.
Second item is a second reading of an ordinance rezoning approximately 0.83 acres from AG to C2 located at 5500 Watermelon Road. Mr. Higginbotham.
Yes, sir. This is actually the same property that is seeking sanitary sewer. The reason for the rezoning, as you know, is when property comes into the city, it initially comes in as AG. The current use fits the C2 designation, so that is why they're seeking to rezone to that. And that does come with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt the ordinance?
That motion.
That's a motion by Councilman Hogg. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Sullivan. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Higginbotham.
Councilman Hogg,
Yes.
Councilman Sullivan,
Yes.
President Logan.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. President.
Item 3 is a second reading of an ordinance rezoning approximately 15 acres from RS to AG located along Decent Camp Road and west of Rose Boulevard. Mr. Higginbotham.
This property is currently in the city under residential. The applicant would like to rezone to AG. It is 15 acres. Looking at the current adjoining properties, you do have some residential and obviously out there on Decent Camp you have some agricultural. So this comes to you with a favorable recommendation from Planning and Zoning.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt the ordinance?
If I'm not mistaken, Bruce, that floodplain too, correct?
Yes, some of the property is in the floodplain. It would be fairly limited if you're looking at future development.
Right.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt the ordinance?
Move to approve.
That's a motion by Councilman Sullivan. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Hogg. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Higginbotham.
Councilman Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilman Hogg,
Yes.
President Logan.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item 4 is a second reading of an ordinance rezoning approximately 1 acre from RS to C3 located along 30th Avenue and south of 18th Street. Mr. Higginbotham.
Yes, sir. This is your second reading on this particular application. The current zoning is residential. It's been that way for years. Years ago, it was rezoned to residential from, I believe, one of the M zones. The current need for the property fits a C3 designation. The C3 is basically a bridge between the manufacturing that's out there and the residential down the street. So it does come with a favorable recommendation from Planning and Zoning.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt the ordinance?
Make that motion.
That's a motion by Councilman Hogg. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Sullivan. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Higginbotham.
Councilman Hogg,
Yes.
Councilman Sullivan,
Yes.
President Logan.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item 5 is a second reading of an ordinance amending Table 6-2 of the text pertaining to the residential zones and zoning map. Mr. Higginbotham.
Sir, are we on item 5 or 4?
We'll be on item 5. Item 5 is a second reading.
This has come before you, I know in the past. Now this is your second reading. I know some of you have attended meetings on this as well. This particular issue was taken up by the Planning and Zoning Board. Probably it's been going on for almost a year. I would say there's been meetings with the local builders to get their input as well. What this amendment or this table amendment does is it rezones our residential zones from what is currently 22 zones to 4. So this is something through a lot of work with Planning and Zoning as well as the local builders that has basically brought everybody to a point where they're happy with it. This comes with a very favorable recommendation from Planning and Zoning, and I do know the local builders are happy too.
Probably a favorable recommendation from a council member too. You're going from how many? 24 to 4?
22 to 4.
22 to 4. Any local builders in here? Okay. Sound good? Are we streamlining? Okay.
A lot better than it was.
All right. Is there a motion to approve and adopt the ordinance?
I'll make that motion.
That's a motion by Councilman Hogg. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Sullivan. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Higginbotham.
Councilman Hogg,
Yes.
Councilman Sullivan,
Yes.
President Logan.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. President.
New business 8A2 is a first reading of an ordinance annexing approximately 1.5 acres located at 4518 5th Street. Mr. Higginbotham.
Yes, sir. The applicant approached the Planning and Zoning Board at the last meeting. They are seeking to come into the city to obtain water service. It does come with a favorable recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Board.
Thank you. I will offer that for a first reading on item 8A2. Item 3 is a first reading of an ordinance authorizing a conditional use approval for a mini warehouse located on the northeast corner of Highway 43 and North Creek Boulevard in a C3 zone. Mr. Higginbotham.
Yes, sir. This is up for first reading by the council. This property is located on 43 North. If you're familiar with where North Creek intersects 43 North, it's at that corner. The applicant has gone through planning and zoning and does come with a favorable request. Because it is a conditional use approval, it will go through council approval.
Thank you. Is there a member of council wanted to offer that for a first reading? I will offer that for a first reading. Next item is a resolution awarding bid file 18-01, the Buckhead Drainage Way Cleanup. Ms. Starnes.
Yes, sir. Public Works received bids for the Buckhead Drainage Way cleanup. We received one that met the qualifications, and that's Turfscape. It is included in the 2018 budget for 1 year.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion to adopt that resolution awarding the bid for the Buckhead Drainage Way Cleanup, bid file number 18-01 to Turfscape in the annual amount of $12,000 and authorizing the city administrator's office to approve any and all purchase requisitions using prices from the said bid file?
Make that motion.
That's a motion by Councilman Hogg. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Sullivan. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Higginbotham.
Councilman Hogg,
Yes.
Councilman Sullivan,
Yes.
President Logan.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. President.
Item C is our consent agenda. There are 13 items. They range from minutes of the previous meeting, bill listings, travel and training, and appeal requisition for analytical technologies. Of course, this is for our sludge monitoring systems. So again, these are 13 items for council consideration. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? I'll make that in the form of a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Sullivan. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Higginbotham.
President Logan,
Yes.
Councilman Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilman Hogg.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. President.
Item 9 is reports of special committees to council. I did not know if the mayor or any member of council had a report from their respective committee. Item 10, I'm sorry, Mayor,
Nothing.
yes, ma'am. Item 10 is public hearings. We have none on the agenda. Item 11, city administrator's business. Mr. Higginbotham.
I have no more business.
Item 12 is departmental business. We have none on the agenda. Item 13 is public comment. We have a few citizens signed to speak. I'll start with our first citizen, Mr. Eddie Fulmer. Thank you, Mr. Fulmer, for coming to our council meeting. Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm surprised you didn't say something about my limp. You made fun of me a while ago. I'm just kidding. Eddie Fulmer, and I'm here to speak on the safety and security of the residents in my mom's subdivision on Cardinal Street, known as also as Smith Acres. Mr. President, I'd like to ask, if possible, if Mr. Jared Shirley's name might be put on the public comment list. He's on his way here and just run a little bit late. And also Miss Darlene Richardson with Cans for Critters, who is here now. The address in question here is 4221 Cardinal Street, and at that address there is a rescue dog operation going on. And what I want to talk about is the safety and security of the residents in my neighborhood. My brother and I own the house at 4225 Cardinal Street. We grew up there in this neighborhood, and our mom has lived there since 1967. And as you must understand, some residents who would be here in support are not here due to work constraints. Mom is 84 years old, and she should expect a degree of safety and security as well as a peaceful neighborhood to live in. Being 84, she requires a good night's sleep undisturbed by yapping and barking and such. And since 2015, we have complained over and over about this to the PD. The animal control officer has been out on numerous occasions. Mom can't get the rest she needs, but now it's turned into what we think might, or we're afraid of, might happen all along. This is a safety concern front and center. We have, and the lady next door has, no idea the kind of dogs she's taken in and their attitude toward other animals and people. We have observed many different kinds of dogs being kept on the lot next door. We've observed up to 9 dogs in the backyard at various times. The animal control officer told us last year that this same lady who's running this operation was removed from Huntington for having more than 30 dogs. It seems everywhere she goes, there's problems. Now, let me state that I am all for animal rescue. I love dogs. I have dogs, or I have a dog now. And we are all in favor of animal rescue. However, when it becomes a safety concern and in the neighborhood, it's time to take some further action here. Mom takes her dog, who is also her best friend, and sometimes my brother and I think she loves the dog more than she does us, out to poop, and because of the current events, she's fearful of what might happen. And somebody else will come and share in a few minutes the attacks that some of these dogs have had on their animals. If a dog did happen to attack, and right now, since we live right next door, we have the propensity for this to happen at almost any time. My mom, being an 84-year-old scrapper, would intervene. She would then most likely suffer injuries or worse. And during my 30 years with the fire department at Tuscaloosa, I've seen what dogs can do to a person and other animals. This makes me even more upset that we allowed this to go on with complaints that we have made going back at least 3 years. On another note, this also drastically reduces property values. Nobody wants to move next door to a house that's got dogs in the back that they know that's going to be yapping and barking all the time and can get loose and possibly injure them or their kids. My good friend, Dennis Hambright, was helping us with this when he suddenly passed away. And I thought we were making some headway, but after that, that just kind of stopped. His death kind of took the steam out of my boiler, so to speak. I'm not sure what can be done here, but I'm not a lawyer. But I am sure with the city's resources and access to lawyers, you can make something happen for the safety and security of all involved. I believe if we give our animal control officers and our law enforcement the codes or tools that they need to make things happen, then they will. At the age of 84, my mom deserves better than this, as do all the residents of Smith Acres and the citizens of Northport. I thank you so much for your time, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
What did you say the address was that
It's 42
4221.
is where your mother lives?
No, my mother lives at 4225.
42, that's what I was missing.
Yes. You have any other questions?
I don't, Eddie, other than I think I know you've called in animal control. We've probably done a really, really good job at making sure we responded in a
Yes.
timely manner. And they're constrained by what's exactly on our
Exactly.
ordinance books. So they're
Exactly.
limited. So
They've been
yeah,
the law enforcement and the animal control have been most helpful.
absolutely.
Most helpful. And their hands are tied behind their back because there's only so much they can do.
Sure.
But I know I know that y'all can come up with some kind of a code or address this situation because it is affecting the safety and security of our neighbors. I mean, you ought to be able to go out and walk your dog around the block without having to worry about another dog coming up and chomping on you, you know.
Again, and I'll ask this question while you're still here. Ron, again, I don't know the exact wording and language of the code as it states to the number of dogs. I know you mentioned that in
Number
your
3 or 4.
Three
So
or
how does that get? How does
See-
somebody go around?
So the question I have is, how does that apply to someone using that kind of an operation when your code says X and somebody may be doing Y? That's the question I have. And I know the stuff with as far as dogs may be vicious or not vicious, or that's one thing. But I think the bigger issue is, what does our code say? How does what this resident, how do they operate apply to our code? I think, Ron, that would be my question. So,
As the code, as I've read it right now, you can't really regulate how many dogs people have in their homes. I
mhm.
mean, you know, but on the outside you can.